Yeah. So the last example was about the standard list controller. We have created a page where, which displays a list of all the records, and we have also been able to do the pagination. Next, previous, we created those buttons, right? Now let's create a couple of more examples with the standard list controller. First thing that I want to do now is to make those fields editable, all right, on a list controller, all right. So we have seen earlier that how can we have editable fields on a standard controller for one record. How do we have that for a list of records? Let's look into that. Let's say your team wants, or your end user wants to have a look onto a list of records, and they also want to be able to make the changes on the list. Fine. So the previous example we discussed was for standard controller, and we created a few input fields. How do we do that for a list, right? If the end user wants to be able to edit multiple records at a time, so we can basically use some editable components on the list controller, all right. So it's pretty simple. We'll just first of all we'll just create a list controller page with all the fields and all. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do it for opportunity, and then the next thing that we'll need is a record set where. Right, so this is the page that we created in our last session also, and this is just a simple list of opportunities. All right. My end user wants to be able to edit the amounts on the page itself, on this page, so that he can edit multiple opportunity amounts at one go. So advantage of being able to do the edits on the list controller page will be you can edit multiple records on a go. So you don't have to actually click on each and every single opportunity and then edit and then come back. So you don't want to do that. You straight away want to um, have a list and edit multiple records on that list. Let me do that. There are two ways of doing that. First is you make the field input field. Okay, this amount you can make convert this into an input field, or put an input field component inside this. How will we do that? It's simple. Changing this to input field is pretty simple. So what we need to do is go to this column, start the column, end the column. Okay, so start the column component, end the column component, and within that you put your input field component. Value equals this. Okay, because I'm using an input field component, I have to use fx form component as well. Got this? So now this has become, this entire column has become an input field, all right? So I can make changes anywhere I want, right? So this column is using this input field, and you can make changes wherever you want. Once your changes have been done, once you have edited these values, before those were before those get saved in the backend database, you need to perform a save operation also, right? Because otherwise whatever you are changing is just on the UI. So for saving, we have the same command buttons, the save and quick save, all right? The ones that we had in standard controller, save, same command button works here as well. So both the actions, save and quick save, work here. I'm going to use quick save here. That's it. So now whatever changes you make here, let's say make it 45,000, save it. Now it has got saved to 45,000. All right, and change this to 80,000, make it 125,000, change this to 95,000, save it quickly. Done. All right, so all the changes have been made. So the good thing is that you can quickly do the edit. So if you your end user wants screen where they can quickly edit multiple records, just this is going to be the helpful way of doing that, the easier way, rather than going and clicking on each record and then editing, saving, right? Make changes on all the records and just click on it, save button. Okay. All right, so there's one way of doing that. The only problem that you might be, thinking of at this point of time is the look and feel of this field, how it looks, right? It does not, look very neat actually. The alignment is not that proper and all that stuff because it's an input field, right? Now, if my end user does not want to have a look, have a view of this field like this, they just want to view the field like this. So it should be again, if you remember, we did a similar example. So it should be displayed as a read-only field, It should not be displayed as an input field. It should be displayed as a read-only field, and we should be able to make the changes or edits. We should be able to do the edit as well. How do we do that? That's going to be simple. All that we have to do is okay. I've got the same page here. Okay, copied and created the same page. I don't want this as to be as input field. So let me get back to the normal setup. Remove this. I don't need to have the input field component there. I'll just make it the normal field inside the column. Okay. So a simple read-only field look. All right, but now this is not editable. So to make it editable, we will use the same component. If you remember, we talked about inline edit support, right? So this inline edit support component will allow me to make these fields editable. I can put this inline edit support inside this page block table. Apex inline edit support. That's it. Let's put this component inside this table, and now your fields have become editable. So it looks like a read-only field, but you have the option of double-clicking on any record and making changes on that. Okay. So, but now it's not just the amount field; it's all the fields which have become editable. See, the name, stage, date, not expected revenue. You cannot edit this because this is a read-only field. The read-only field, as in actually read-only field, system generated. So we cannot edit the value. That's the reason why you're not able to edit it here. But anything that you have access to edit, those fields are allowed here to be edited. Okay, fine. So that's about using inline edit. Now, a small change that we will want to make on this in this code is all the fields have become editable, right? Let's say I don't want all the fields to be editable. All the fields you want to make editable, then putting inline edit here is okay. All right, but if you don't want all the fields to be editable, you just want amount field to be editable. Okay, you don't want your end users to be able to edit all the fields. You just want them to be able to edit the amount field. How will you do that? That's a simple stuff. For doing that, you just have to, okay, I'm removing this one. So first of all, just remove it from here and put it inside this column. Okay, how will you put it inside the column? Again, the same concept. When you want to put a component inside the other component, that component has to start and end, right? So otherwise I can use an apex column in a single line, but when I'm trying to put some other component inside this, then I'll have to start the apex column and end the column. Inside this you will have to put apex output field. Okay, inline edit support works only with output field. So start output field and end the output field also. So you need to start the output field component and end the output field component. Okay. Put the value here, which will be o dot amount. Right. I just started my output field component and I have ended the output field component. Inside this, you put the input inline edit support. So this inline edit support is now going to be available only inside this output field. So now the inline edit support is enabled only for the amount, right? If I double click on the name, does not get edited. Nothing is happening here as well. Okay, but amount field, if I double click, I can edit it, right? So if you want to put the inline edit support for entire table, then just put it outside the columns, within the table, outside the column as a component. If you want to make it for a single field or maybe two fields, then you should go and go inside the column, create the output field component. It only works with output field component because it does not make any sense with input field component. Input field by default is editable. So what is the point putting an inline edit support there? So create an output field component and then inside that put the inline edit support. Right, is that clear? Please let me know if you have any questions or doubts here. Simple stuff. All right. Just a small thing, why you convert this into an output field and or an input field. The default header label which was there, is not displayed. All right. Then in that case, how do you bring the header value here? You can go to apex column. See, in all other columns, header comes by default because I am putting a field inside the column. So the moment I am putting a field value inside a column, it automatically takes the field name in the header. But in this case, I am just starting a column and ending the column. So the column value, header value will not come by default. All that you have to do is you just have to go ahead and use another attribute of this apex column component, which is called header value, and there you can give the value. Now you can give whatever value you want here. But this right? So that's about the inline edit support and being able to edit multiple records on a page. Clear? Okay. So we just talked about multiple, sorry, editing multiple records using standard list controller, right? And the other thing that we have to do is, the next thing that we're going to talk about is passing of parameters in standard list controller. What is this passing of parameter? Passing of parameter is passing, because we are talking about multiple records here. If I need to pass parameter of one of the records from here to some other section, like, so let me give you a small scenario where you will need passing of parameters. Let's say you have this list of accounts, all right. Now what you plan to do is, your end users want to be able to click on one of these records. Okay, so while the list is being displayed, your end users want to be able to click on one of these records and view the details of that record. Got it? So in that case, what will happen? I'll need to pass the parameter of the record which is clicked on. Got it? So right now I'm just displaying the details. Sorry, displaying the list. Right? If I am required to create a page where I can click on a certain record and see the details of that record, maybe on this page itself, somewhere in a different section. So in that case, I'll need to make sure that a parameter is being passed from the record which has been clicked on to the other section, right? So how does that work? For that, let's create a different page for account. Standard controller count record set where. So first of all, let me just create the list, and then we will talk about the passing of parameters in that. So I just created one called account record set where cts. Okay, so just created a list of accounts. We're using the standard list controller. My page is ready. All right. Now what I want to do here is, let's say I don't want this field effects. All right. So what I've done here is I've just created a page. All right. So list was already there. I've just made a few changes. I've just created two different sections to this page, and one is list of accounts. The other is details of accounts. All right. So just a section that I've created, another page block that I've created here on this side. All right. My point is that I just want to be able to click on a record here and view the details of that record here. That's what I want to do. Got it? So I just want the left side to be showing me the list of records, and right side to be having the uh, details of records. All right. So to display the details of a record on the right side, what we can do is we can just use a small component called the apex detail component, which we have used earlier also. So at the right side section, I'm going to put apex detail component. But earlier, when we used Apex Detail component, that was for a standard controller. And in a standard controller, we supply the ID in the URL, right? So ID of the record is supplied in the URL, and there is just one, ID in context in one page, right? So this Apex Detail shows the details of that record, the one which it finds the ID for in the URL, right? But now this is a standard list controller page, which means there is no ID supplied in the URL. So how will Apex Detail, get the ID? Which records detail it's going to show? So for that, there's an attribute. If you're not using Apex Detail component for standard controller, it can automatically pick the ID from URL. But if it is not a standard controller, it's some other controller, all right, where it does not get the ID by default, we can use another attribute called subject to pass the ID to this. All right. So there's an attribute called subject. This subject basically takes the ID. Okay. So I can supply the ID in the subject attribute. Okay. So I'll have to pass the ID here. Let me write something here. Expression will not take. Okay. I'll just need to pass the ID in that subject, right? As of now, I do not have the ID. From where will I get the ID? So which record we want to display? The one that we click on. All right. So here is the logic. When I click on a certain record here, on a certain account, I should be able to pass the ID from there. Okay. So while I click on a certain record, my page should take the ID of that record and pass it to the subject. That solves my problem, right? So if I click on Burlington Textile, uh, the ID should be taken from that record and passed on to this site. Then this will automatically display the details of that particular record, right? So that's what we want to do. Let's just go to this. Okay. All right. So what we need to do is, first of all, I need to convert this one, this name into link. All right, so that I can click on that. First of all, it has to be clickable. So just go to the name and convert it into link. Can make it command link. Text command link. Okay, and in that command link, put the value equals dot name. Needs to be under apex form component. Okay. Okay. So this field has become all links and all. Now I can click on a certain record. Okay. Now I'm able to click on a record, but it's not doing anything as of now. What I have to do is I have to include another component here, which is called apex param. This apex param is a component which is used for passing the parameters. So in the param, you just have to use name of the parameter. So this is used for creating a parameter. So on click of this link, I want to create a parameter that can be, let's say I call it account ID. Okay, this is the name of my parameter which I want to create, and value for that parameter will be a dot ID. Okay. So I've created a parameter called account ID, and the value for that parameter is a.id. Means it's getting the ID from the record, the one which has been selected. All right, from the clicked record. That's it. So every time I click on a record, value for this parameter changes to a.id. The current selected record. So basically, think of it as this is a variable which I've defined here, and this variable gets the value of the ID of the selected record as value. All that I have to do is I just have to call this account ID here in the subject apex detail. Then every time I click on a record, whatever value is passed on here to account ID is available here, and the things change on the right hand side as well. So let me create the subject, and okay. So this is the syntax of calling a parameter. So this is a defined as a parameter of this page. To call that parameter anywhere else in the page, what you have to do, you just have to say that current page dot parameters dot name of the parameter. So this is the location where this parameter is saved. So this is the syntax for calling it. All that you have to do is you just have to use this, and then the name of the parameter, whatever is the name of the parameter. All right. So now if I click on this, okay, it doesn't look. Give me a minute. In my link, it will not pass it from here. Name. Sorry.
Jeet,
Mm-hmm.
in the param name we have used account ID plus
Yeah, spelling is incorrect, right?
yes.
Oh, it's working. Correct. There is a spelling mistake. All right. So now it shows me a list of details of the account with the related list. I don't want to see the related list. So let me just go and turn off the related list on the Apex detail component. Let's go and say related list equals false. Child option on the sidebar equals to be false. But this, now you click on a record and you see the details of that record here. So this is how parameters can be passed. Alright, let's say I just want to do one more thing. Here in the title, I want to show the name of the selected account. Alright, the title, I just want to show the name of the selected account. So in that case, I need to pass one more parameter for the name. Now I'm just passing the ID as the parameter which is being used for subject. I want to display the name, I have to pass name also as a parameter. So the same place, just go and define one more parameter. Name of the parameter can be account name. Value of the parameter this time can be a dot name. So this way you pass whatever you want as parameter from the selected record, provided that is a value present in that record or a valid field from that object. So I have created another parameter which is called account name, and all that I have to do is go to the apex page block, and in the title, where the title is static, instead of static title I will put the same thing. I'll have to call that parameter. So current page dot parameters dot account name. That's it. Got it? Okay, there's one more small thing that I would want to do on this page. Right now, when I click on a certain record, let's say when I click on this, the complete page gets reloaded. Same Ajax concept, remember? We talked for the tab panel and tabs. Now, same thing is happening here. When I click on a record, the entire page is getting reloaded. So now this is a light page, and you might not, and I have I'm using the same page again and again, so it's not taking that long to load the page. But if it takes a 2 seconds or 1 second to load the page, that will be a long time. So what you can do there is you just have to avoid the load of the entire page. So this entire page should not get refreshed. So I just have to do the partial refresh of this area. Correct? And that's what I need to do. So for that, what you have to do is the section that you want to be refreshed, give an ID to that section. There's an attribute called ID. Okay, so ID usually gives a unique identifier name to the section or any component, right? give an ID to this section. ID can be anything. Um, just give a name, unique name to this section. So whatever area you want to be reloaded. Let's say I call it a refresh area. Okay. So this is the area that I want to be reloaded on the click of this link. Go to, take this ID name from here. Go to your command link and say re-render. So there is an attribute on the command link which is called re-render, right? The re-render, you just have to say which area you want to re-render. That's it. See, now the entire page is not getting reloaded. If you look into this, then you will understand. Now it's only the load of this section. This section is getting reloaded. That's it. So that's the only thing which was required, right? So what I've done is I've just given a unique name to this. You can call it whatever you want. Make sure to just on the command link you say re-render, which means when someone clicks on this link, just re-render this area. If you don't say this, then by default it's gonna re-render the entire page, which will again take a bit longer. If your page has a lot of things, then it does not make sense to load the entire page. For this, people will only want to have a re-rendered section of this, right? Pyramid construction. Yeah, right there. Clear? Right. Now, please let me know if anyone has a question or doubt here.